Welcome everyone to NASCAR Busch Series qualifying at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of the fastest tracks anywhere. It's all part of a scheduled 1,000 miles of racing among NASCAR's top 3 series this weekend. Trucks ran last night. Mike Skinner was the winner. Today it's the Busch Series qualifying and racing, and tomorrow all the action caps off with 500 miles of Nextel Cup racing. Hello everybody, I'm John Roberts. Welcome once again to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where it is a very busy day. Let's take a look now at our St. Patty's Day menu. Want to wish everybody a happy St. Pat's Day. Today on Speed, we got the Busch Series qualifying coming up next. See who the luck of the Irish will smile on as they set that grid for that action this afternoon. 300 miles of racing. Nextel Cup final practice at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And then the endurance contest. The Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring takes center stage at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, as we have reminded you throughout this year, the drama these days in Nextel Cup racing is as thick on Friday as it is on Sunday. Let's take a look at the grid for this Cobalt Tools 500 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Ryan Newman will start on the pole at this racetrack for the 7th time in his career. Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin are a couple of NASCAR Hot Pass drivers on DirecTV you can follow throughout the 500 miles of racing. Tony Stewart was the last guy to win a Cup race here last year during the chase. Nemechek and J.J. Yaley round out the first 10 rows of starters tomorrow afternoon. Greg Biffle will have the Hot Pass aboard with him in the number 16. A lot of people are saying, keep your eyes on the Biff this weekend because he is due. On back in the field, Brian Vickers made it in his Toyota. Will start inside of row number 16. Blaney and Kevin Harvick in 18. Robbie Gordon and Kyle Petty in row number 20. Then it's Jeff Green and Ricky Rudd. Dale Jarrett with the past champions provisional will be the last starter in the field. The folks who failed to qualify, Scott Wimmer, Ward Burton, Michael Waltrip, and Kenny Wallace, Jeremy Mayfield and A.J. Allmendinger. And right now in Cup racing, the Toyotas are 14 for 29 in attempts to make these races. So a lot of pressure on those teams on Friday. And we want to remind you that if you missed Survival of the Fastest only on Speed, you have one other chance to catch that show. Here's a preview of what's coming up.
Red Bull's philosophy on pairing.
Happy St. Patrick's Day from a cold Atlanta Motor Speedway. In Hampton, Georgia, it's time for Busch Pole qualifying. And when we say cold, we mean it. You see the flags straight out, 40 degrees with winds out of the northwest. Larry Mack, no way.
It's about 20 degrees.
Winds out of the northwest, 15 to 20 miles an hour as Michael Waltrip rolls out.
I promise you right now, there won't nobody be wanting to kiss the Blarney Stone today, my man.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you, my little leprechaun.
Your lips will stick to it.
I promise you. I promise you.
Michael Waltrip's in that number 32. He has 9 starts here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Best start of 3rd. The best finish of 8th.
I don't know about you, Larry. I would not want to be Larry McReynolds. I wouldn't want to be Michael Waltrip having to roll off here and try this racetrack out. I'd be sneaking up on that first lap if I was him.
6 top 10s for Michael here on this ultra-fast mile-and-a-half racetrack. The track record in the Busch Series set here by Greg Biffle in October of 2003, 192.30 miles per hour. That's a 28.83 in terms of time.
He was 11th quickest in practice yesterday, and his time in practice was a 30.16. A lot like we saw in Nextel Cup qualifying. He's picked up a good 2.5 tenths, 29.92 on lap 1. Now, Michael, he is one of the go-or-go-home cars.
He used up a lot of the racetrack right then, Larry. And I look for Michael to make this race, and I also expect him to be up off the bottom whenever they drop the green flag. I promise you, he'll be one of the first guys that'll be headed upstairs.
We expect 44 drivers to take time here, 43 positions.
Ooh, big pickup on that second lap, Larry.
And I think that will be pretty common. We saw that in Nextel Cup qualifying, contrary to what I thought we were going to see. I think a lot comes from heating the tires, and a lot it's a momentum racetrack as well.
Coming up, Jay Sauter, Jason Leffler, and Matt Kenson. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Busch Series qualifying for the Atlanta Motor Speedway is brought to you by TGI Fridays Restaurants' new right portion, right price menu. Give me more Fridays. Jay Sauter in the 34 car. real slow. Picked it up on his second lap, but again, slow time and speed for Jay Sauter. Hi again, everybody. Steve Burns with Larry McReynolds and Jeff Hammond. And, you know, guys, we've talked about it all weekend. This place, we talk about that race car. It's got to be fast. But you know what? That driver better be brave.
Yes, he better. There's no question. This 300-mile race for these guys later on this afternoon, it's a challenge. But a challenge to go out there at this mile-and-a-half racetrack and all but try to run wide open. They turn down into one. It's bumpy, but you've got to stay in the throttle. Then you come up off turn 2. You got to let that thing get against the wall, down a very short straightaway, down into 3 and 4, and the whole time those throttle springs, Jeff, they're starting to feel like door springs, but you got to stay in that throttle if you're going to run fast.
You got that right. 70% of the time you're in the corners here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, down those short straightaways. And this morning, walking through the garage, guys, there was a lot of guys making changes. And we take a look right now. Jason Leffer's on the racetrack. I think they're trying to find the ideal setup to not only qualify with, but to be able to race here today, because this is an impound race.
And you just saw Jason go through turn 1 and 2. I know yesterday we did Busch practice. One of the things they were fighting is bottoming out in those bumps down there.
Seen the car wobble around quite a bit right there. That Toyota Camry making its way into turn 3. Let's see how he does here as he gets it down into turn 3, because again, you don't want this car bottoming out.
And he was 3rd quickest in practice. His time was a 29.90 yesterday. First lap 30.05, he picks it up about those 2/10, 29.87, but still about a 10th off of Michael Waltrip. He's actually a teammate to Michael Waltrip in this Busch race.
There, Jeff, we understand Dick Berggren has some breaking news in the Cup garage.
Indeed, as the Busch cars are out there taking time, Steve, we're looking at the engine change in car number 12, Ryan Newman, who last night won the pole here for tomorrow's Nextel Cup race. Now, after he finished his pole run, he told us that the engine just didn't seem quite right. A little bit of a skip to it. We all sort of shrugged and said, how could that possibly be? Well, this morning he went out for an earlier practice session. The skip has gotten worse. They are now concerned that it might have been a mechanical problem internal to the engine. So they pull that engine out, put a backup engine in. That means the guy who was fastest last night tomorrow is going to start absolutely last in the race.
Now, he'll still get credit for the Bud pole. He still qualifies for the 2008 Budweiser shootout, but like Dick said, he'll start shotgun on the field now.
And it won't hurt him here. I think because this racetrack is so wide, it's got a lot of grooves, he'll have an opportunity to fight his way back up toward the front. I know it's kind of like a setback, maybe emotionally and mentally, but I think otherwise he'll be just fine.
Well, boys, Matt Kenseth has a pole here and a win in the Busch Series. Pole coming in 2000. The win in 2004.
He was 12th quickest in practice yesterday at a 30.18 his first lap. 29.86, so if he picks up those couple of tenths like we've seen most of these guys pick up, he should go to the top of the charts. Already has a win in the books for 2007 out at Fontana, California last month.
You know what's really impressive about his record here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway? 8 starts, 6 top 5 finishes.
Oh, he loves this place. Always runs well. Normally, whether it's Busch or Nextel Cup, maybe not a great qualifier, but normally he'll race good. But right now, 29.53, he picks up over 3 tenths.
You know, say good second lap from Matt Kenseth.
So Matt Kenseth, the fastest of 4 drivers qualifying here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. More Busch pole qualifying coming up. Fox and Speed's coverage of NASCAR continues later today with Nextel Cup Series practice on Speed. Tomorrow begins with NASCAR Race Day on Speed, and then it's Nextel Cup Series racing on Fox, followed by NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. Our coverage of NASCAR continues all weekend long across the Fox networks. David Rudiman in the 99 car headed to the garage. Qualified second fastest in his Toyota. Dick Berggren standing by with the fastest of those who've qualified.
And that's Matt Kenseth. Did you get everything out of this car that was there?
Pretty much. I mean, maybe somebody, maybe a little braver, maybe a little younger, maybe could have went a little faster, but gosh, not much. That was a really good lap. Of course, you know, I don't know. We'll probably get beat. I don't think that'll end up being a pole, but that was a great lap. Pretty much got all of it out of it. For having a race setup, it would have worked more on qualifying. We probably could have done better, but qualifying doesn't pay a lot today. It's all the last lap of the race tonight.
As long as you're happy with it. To Chris Devoto.
Rolling along with Sam Hornish as he gets ready to head out. And Sam was a little bit loose off the turns in yesterday's practice. He was looking for front grip in the middle of the turns. I think it's plenty cold enough for front grip today. Sam, what do you think? How good's your car?
It's really yet to be seen. We made a lot of changes overnight last night. the Penske truck rental car was pretty good. We weren't quite in the top 10. That's where we're trying to aim to be in the practice sessions and then qualifying and at the end of the races. But just not quite where we needed to be. But hopefully all the changes that we made went in the right direction and be able to run all day.
And Sam Hornish hoping the changes worked out for this qualifying run.
And that's Paul Menard. Krista, is that your St. Patrick's Day hat?
Would you like it to make an appearance? Actually,
yes.
You know, it's funny. Greg Biffle has a green hat on as well. So I asked him if we got the memo, we're looking for a little luck of the Irish. So look for Greg Biffle to have a strong run only because of the hat, if nothing else.
Steve, we always like to say in racing, I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
There it is.
That's the way you get it right there.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
But now, Krista, I'm very proud. You're keeping with the trend. Looks like somebody's been gnawing on the front of the bill of that hat.
Yeah.
So you're very trendy with your hat.
Yeah, they say that's the trend, It makes it, I guess, easier if it gets eaten up in the washing machine. You just say that it's the style.
And you have your Lindsay Lohan sunglasses?
No, it's the sun is out. You wouldn't know it by how we feel down here on pit road.
I understand.
It's freezing.
I thought maybe it was her boyfriend PK been chewing on that hat.
Yeah. No, it is his hat though.
Okay.
You guys you sold me out. It is his.
Yeah.
Paul Menard, fourth fastest. Guys, I want to ask you about this cold weather. The flag blowing dead into turns 3 and 4, 40 degrees. What effect is that going to have on these cars as we watch? There's the flag as we watch Greg Biffle head to the start-finish line.
Unlike a lot of other racetracks, I just don't really believe the wind has that much of effect. I mean, you may feel just a little bit, but not like a Daytona or a Talladega. You got so much horsepower, you stay in the gas here, and the way these turns are configured, Larry, I don't think it's really a big deal here. More the cold weather than the wind.
And guys, listen to Greg Biffle's record here in the Busch Series. In the last 6 races, he's finished 3rd, 6th, 5th, a win, 5th, 2nd.
That's pretty stout.
That's
he likes his place.
2 poles also.
But we talked about it in the top of the show. It's a racetrack that you manhandle. When you think about manhandling a racetrack, you think about Greg Biffle. Lap 1, not a great first lap, 30.64 for Greg.
But Larry, one thing I want to point out about Greg, he had that hard crash in Las Vegas early in the season, and I still don't think he's 100%. I've watched him work, around the garage area, and again, it just takes a long time. And I saw that car this past week in Liberty. I was up at the Roush stables up there in Liberty, where the car, what's left of that car sitting there, it was a hard impact. It really was one of the hardest I've ever seen for a race car.
Picks it up a little bit, but again, most of our guys
It's almost flat all the way around, dude. I'd say I don't think it's running right.
And I think that tells the tale. And what he meant, it sounds like he's holding it wide open all the way around this 1.5-mile racetrack, but he's almost a full second off of what Matt Kenseth turned his fast lap of 30.45.
And that'll be hard to make up if it's not running right with the amount of time they've got between now and the time they start that race, unless they want to pull it out of line and make a change. What you got is what you got.
That's a Bruco Motorsports car that Greg Biffle was in. Casey Mears in the 24 for Hendrick Motorsports.
These guys are looking for a little bit of luck, not only today during qualifying, but during this race. They've had a pretty much tough year in this Busch Series so far. The last time we saw him in a Busch race, he got caught up in somebody else's mistake. This is a brand new race car.
Yeah, wrecked at Las Vegas early last week. I think had 2 crashes at Daytona. Now, they did redeem themselves by finishing 2nd at Fontana, but it has been a rough ride. In fact, you and I were talking to him yesterday, Jeff, this team, they're about out of race cars already.
Yeah, they would like to have a little bit of luck. It's like today, as far as being St. Patrick's Day, that's the kind of luck they're looking for.
Now, Casey's had some good runs here in the Cup Series. This is the kind of track, Lowe's Motor Speedway in Charlotte, he runs these type of tracks pretty well.
He about had this Cup race won a couple of years ago and had an engine failure late in the race driving the 41 car for Ganassi and Savalas. Now, we need to make sure we update everyone. We have 44 cars here, so that means only 1 car will go home. A little different in Busch Series. It's the top 30 in owner points from last year right now in their first 5 races that are locked in, so that means we have 14 cars going after those 13 positions. Only 1 car will go home. But of our first 14 qualifiers, 10 of them are part of the go-homers, like Casey Mears in the 24. Good lap. He goes to 2nd at a 29.60. Good 2nd lap.
Yeah, Casey picks it up a bunch.
And Larry, I think we're going to see a lot of that today because if you remember,
It won't go any faster.
It won't go any faster.
That's the second time we've heard that
guys have been
comment.
saving tires, and I think Krista's with Kevin Harvick. One of the drivers just said he was sitting on a set of tires for qualifying. Krista?
Well, Kevin was about middle of the pack in yesterday's happy hour Busch practice. So, Kevin, how's this car? You got a chance for the pole today?
I don't know. We didn't do a qualifying run. We just worked on race trim. Didn't want to hurt any of our other tires. We wanted to make sure they were all stickers. So AutoZone Chevrolet was good then, and these are merely for pictures and just to give you a good starting spot, and so everything looks good. That's about it. So hopefully, we don't do very good from the pole, so hopefully not.
Doesn't matter, because he's always good for the race and always a contender to win. And we're glad it's for the pictures, because we're getting a picture of him right now.
But that's probably something we don't talk enough about. We'd always talk about differences in Busch Series versus Nextel Cup as we see David Reagan in the 6 car out there for his qualifying run. We always talk about the horsepower difference, about 100 horsepower, 5 inches shorter wheelbase, a little more downforce with a bigger rear spoiler. But one thing they have to contend with week in and week out, unlike Nextel Cup, in Nextel Cup you have unlimited tires for the race. What they do with the Busch Series, they give these guys 6 sets total for the weekend. That's for practice, for qualifying, for everything. And to get the 6th set for the race, you actually have to turn your first set back in before the race. So actually you only have 5 sets to work with, and that can be a challenge when you're talking about a 300-mile race.
And I want to clarify what Kevin Harvick meant. Jeff, it kind of gets back to what you said about Ryan Newman. Yeah, he's going to have to relinquish that #1 spot and start from the back, but this is a wide track. There is time to race. Same thing for Kevin Harvick. Quite frankly, qualifying is more important at certain tracks than it is at others.
It is, and that's what a lot of these drivers have come to realize, as well as crew chiefs. I mean, it's good bragging rights. We see David Reagan, basically local guy, jump up the 4th quickest, but you know, you've got to look at the big picture, and winning the race is the big picture. And as long as you understand that and your car's working well, you can give up a little bit for qualifying. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It's just not quite as important. One thing I want to mention right quick about David Reagan, being a local boy, I said, hey, how's it been so far this week? He said, it's been hectic. He actually came into town on Tuesday to take care of a lot of things, you know, as far as meeting with some of his friends and people, getting a lot of things behind him so he can stay focused here at the track on the race car and what he has to do as far as Saturday and Sunday.
Clint Boyer is in that #2 car. You know, another thing we need to mention, Larry, about the Busch Series that is different than the Cup Series is Kevin Harvick referred to it. I didn't make really a qualifying run. He was setting up for the race.
It's because every Busch Series race is an impound race, and we only have to contend that with about 4 or 5 races in Nextel Cup. All of the restrictor plate races, with the exception of the Daytona 500 and the 2 Richmond races. These guys can only make slight adjustments on their race car after qualifying, like air pressure, wedge, and track bar. No springs, no shocks, no gears or anything.
Here's one of the guys last night who had a pretty good chance of winning the Craftsman Truck Series race, wound up finishing 5th. So he has a little bit of understanding of what this racetrack may feel like when it's cool like it is. And be interested to see what he does on his first lap. He winds up being 8th quickest, actually a little bit slower than what I anticipated from Clint Boyer.
He's in a Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet. Congratulations to Mike Skinner for winning the truck race last night.
2 in a row,
Yep.
leading the points.
Pretty impressive.
3 top 5
Were you proud of him, Larry?
I'm very proud of Mike Skinner. But we talk about guys that love this place. This is a Mike Skinner type of a racetrack. You just drive it down in there and just manhandle it.
Clint Boyer finished 5th in the truck race. Right now he is 5th in Busch Series qualifying. Matt Kenseth is the quickest. Welcome back to Busch Pole qualifying. The 23 of Brad Keselowski has his Chevrolet on the racetrack. Matt Kenseth is the fastest. Keselowski 9th of 11 drivers to qualify. Let's check in now with Dick Berggren.
And I'm with Casey Mears, who, after he made his run, said he ran wide open all the way around. But I also heard you express concerns about the engine. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but right when I fired it up, the engine was vibrating really bad, and we thought some oil tank issues, and I think what might have happened is just a bunch of oil got in the motor, and it was vibrating for a while until it pumped all the oil back into the oil tank. So initially when I first fired it up, it had a real bad vibration, and then it smoothed out and ran good. The first lap it didn't run real good, and the second lap it picked up. But that's the first time I can honestly say I've been completely wide open all the way around. But I think it was because we were just having a hard time getting the engine to pick up.
So the engine's okay for tomorrow?
I think so. I mean, nothing's hurt in it. You know, I just think it had some oil in it and pumped it out. That's what we're hoping it's going on anyway. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see if we can get the National Guard card up front today.
Okay, good deal. Krista.
Bobby Labonte did not make a qualifying run yesterday. He was one of the fastest guys in race trim. And Bobby, you're always fast at this track. Is this kind of an ideal weather condition day for these race cars here at Atlanta?
No. I don't think it's ideal for anything. Not even the ducks are happy. So, I mean, it's just real windy and cold. I mean, you know, it's great for grip and, you know, speed throughout with the motor and everything. But, you know, it's might be just a little bit too cold for me anyway.
I agree. A little too cold for us. I thought maybe the race cars would be a little happier than we are.
Well, they might be a little bit, but really, I mean, the wind does play a little bit with you. Going down the front straight, it slows you down. You might get going a little too fast in turn 3. But overall, I mean, I hate that it's so windy and cold because it's just no fun. Just, you know, everybody's just preaching.
All right, we look for Bobby Labonte to be good in that number $77 General Chevrolet. He qualified 6th in the Cup car.
Krista, Buddy Baker used to say those cars don't drive themselves. So they may be happy, but the drivers aren't.
Well, I know who's happy right now, though.
That's right.
Sam Hornish Jr. He goes to the top of the chart, just barely beats Matt Kenseth, but a 29.52.
Kind of get you some of that, boys. And I don't see any green on that race car, but pretty lucky little lap right there, I'd say.
3-time Indy Racing League champion and the winner of the 2006 Indianapolis 500, Sam Hornish Jr.
Do you think maybe a little leprechaun action right there on the back of the 5 car, it looks like? But you think maybe he went down and talked to his, you know, kind of like teammate Ryan Newman after that qualifying lap he put down of over 193 miles an hour?
You bring up a good point, Jeff Hammond. Where were we last week at Vegas? I heard Paul Menard say that they changed the air pressures in his Cup car to what Junior ran, and he went out there and put it in the show.
There you go. Now, Regan Smith in the 4 car, a lot of speculation about next week at Bristol. This is the driver that will share the ride with Mark Martin, the 01, the Army car, Nextel Cup. And I think we can safely say, after talking to Mark Martin on our trackside show, that this will be the driver of the 01 Army car, regardless of where that car leaves here in the Nextel Cup points.
That's a fact, Jack.
In fact, Mark Martin told DW to shut up. Stop talking about it.
On air.
On air.
We
recorded it.
I just hope we don't lose that tape.
Oh, we'll save it.
I hope we don't lose it. I'd like to have a copy of it.
Regan's first lap, a 30.62. That will go ahead and lock him into the show, but he has one more lap, and we've seen everything from 2 or 3/10 of a pickup on lap 2 to 3/4 of a second.
Regan started 6th here a year ago.
It's about 3.5 tenths, so he'll go to 11th quickest with the 4 car.
You know, he really doesn't have the results to show how well he's run at times this year in the Busch Series. He has 1 top 10. That was at Mexico City. But talking to Ryan Pemberton about him, they're really pleased with his progress.
And Mark Martin sounds awfully high on him, too. Very high.
So Sam Hornish Jr. puts a big number on the board. He ran a 29.52, which equates to 187.786 miles per hour. And speaking of miles per hour, woo, that wind is whipping.
Would you look at that? A boogity, boogity, boogity flag under a Dale Earnhardt Jr. flag. It doesn't get any better than that.
Can't escape him.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Better be careful. Darrell will be out there reversing that. His flag will need to be on top and Dale Jr. on the bottom.
55 car driven by Robbie Gordon.
Either he or Van Collie want to be out there reversing it. I'm not sure which.
Somebody must have told Tony a funny joke.
Tony's in the 20 car this week. Denny Hamlin will not run the entire schedule.
You know, I've really never listened to it, but I actually was a guest on Tony Stewart and Matt Yoakum's radio show the other night, and those guys do a great job with that radio show. I had a lot of fun, hung out with them.
That's on Sirius satellite radio,
10 or 15 minutes. Really did a nice job with it. Very impressed.
How much do they pay you to say that?
Not a thing.
Really?
No.
Amazing.
I listened to about 10 minutes of it before I went on, and great show. Pretty impressed.
Good deal.
Now, Robbie Gordon was 30th in practice yesterday. His first lap, a 30.30. Now, after Robbie qualifies, we'll only have 4 more go-or-go homers. Right now, all of the go-or-go homers that have qualified are locked in with the exception of Jay Sauter. He's the car on the bubble. We still have J.J. Yaley, Ron Young, Jamie McMurray, and Juan Pablo Montoya. That'll be the last car to qualify of the other go-or-go home cars.
And Robbie helps himself by picking up on that second lap to a 29.83.
Coming up, Jeff, it's Eric McClure, Kevin Harvick, and Carl Edwards. That's Eric McClure in the number 0 Chevrolet. Slowest of 15 drivers to take time here on the 1.5 miles on a cold, cold St. Patrick's Day. There's your reigning Busch Series champion, Kevin Harvick, in the 21 Chevrolet of AutoZone-sponsored race car.
Dips it below that white line. Bobbles just a little bit coming up off of turn 4 there, but looking pretty racy right now coming back to start-finish line, Larry.
See what he does here on lap 1, 29.92. So he's going to need to pick up about 4/10 if he wants to go to the top of the charts.
Sam Hornish is the quickest, and he ran a 29.52.
You see how quickly he's back the throttle wide open right there off of turn 2, guys.
He's losing ground, though, going down the back straightaway. Set on the pole at Las Vegas. Now, even though he's not running the entire schedule, he finished 7th at Las Vegas. He didn't race in Mexico City. That's 21 consecutive top 10 finishes for Kevin Harvick.
Harvick picks up. He is 4th fastest on his 2nd lap. Dick Berggren in the garage.
With Sam Hornish, IndyCar is wide open all the way around. 219 miles an hour you've traveled this place at. Wide open all the way around the Busch car?
No, not quite. There's still a little bit of lifting, a little bit of braking. I hear some of the guys, when their cars are good, can do that, but it's still a little bit of getting used to a process for me, and also using the brakes to make the car what I want and make it do what I want to do. But I'm having fun. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and we go into each one of these races just hoping to make it to the end on the lead lap and get some more experience. So the Penske truck racing car ran really good in qualifying. Hopefully it'll be even better in the race.
Smile tells the story for sure. He's a happy man. On the pole so far, Steve.
Yeah, nicely done by Sam Hornish in that 12 car. There's your NASCAR Busch Series points. Later, Carl Edwards.
Can see him bottoming out just a little bit down through those bumps we were talking about in 1 and 2.
And what a weekend he had here 2 years ago.
Put the big sweep on him.
Yes, he did. Won his first ever Busch Series race and Cup race in the same weekend.
And he's bottoming out pretty bad down in 3 and 4. But right now, if you look, it's really not affecting the race car. This is just lap 1 right here. How about 29.34? He beats Sam Hornish Jr. by 2/10 with a lap to go.
188.951 miles per hour.
And Larry, what I was noticing on his throttle trace compared to Kevin Harvick was he was back in the throttle. He was 2 miles an hour faster through 3 and 4 than Kevin Harvick was just a lap or so ago.
Never came completely out of the throttle. Just breathed it just a little bit, but never completely out. Looks like this could be 29.27. He picks it up a little bit more.
So Carl Edwards bumps Sam Hornish Jr. from the pole position. Coming up, Brent Sherman, Kyle Busch, and Bobby Labonte. Welcome back to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. You're watching Busch Pole qualifying on speed. Brent Sherman qualified while we were away. He is 14th of the 18 drivers taking time here on this 1.5 miles.
Boys, don't look now, but Mr. Busch said, out of my way, Carl Edwards.
And he was fastest in practice yesterday and backs it up today. Ran a 29.25, 189.532 miles per hour.
And that was on the first lap.
Yes, sir.
And he's not done yet.
Kyle Busch, the defending pole sitter of this event, but he finished 40th a year ago after an accident. He led 25 laps of that event.
How about 29.01, over 191 miles an hour in this 5 car? You guarantee you he never pulled out of the throttle.
If he gets out of that race car and says, well,
there's a little bit left.
Yeah.
All right, guys, tomorrow you're not ready for the drop of the green flag until you've seen NASCAR Race Day built by the Home Depot. Tune in as JR, Jimmy, Kenny, and Wendy get you up to speed on all the happenings from Atlanta. Don't miss NASCAR Race Day built by the Home Depot tomorrow morning, 11:30 Eastern, live on Speed. Dick Berggren.
So after he got done with his run, Carl Edwards got out of his car, came over to me, showed me his hand, and it was doing that. So that run was all driver, right?
Yeah, I wish I could say that. This bonus S-Max Fusion is awesome. I mean, it's just loose. I mean, just a little bit loose. And I told him, man, it's going to be great for the race. And I just said, if anybody can beat that, they can have it. Kyle, he did a heck of a job. But I just so loose through 1 and 2. It's like I couldn't tell how hard to go. And I was thinking about Darlington when I wrecked in qualifying. I was like, I'll just go about 98. And that was still plenty fast for me.
Good for you. Let's go upstairs.
All right, thank you, Dick Berggren. That number 77 being driven by Bobby Labonte.
Last night he was fast in the Cup car. I'd be really curious to see what he does here because he likes this racetrack.
You know, go back to what Carl Edwards was telling Dick Berggren. You know, Carl Edwards certainly knows what it takes to get around this racetrack, and it goes a lot back to the impound procedure we were talking about a while ago. He knows they can make little to no adjustments to that 60 car, but when they do untape the nose, they have it taped up quite a bit for qualifying, and you start getting some laps on your tires, these things tend to want to shove the nose, push, and he knows being a little free right now is probably going to be just right for that 300-mile race later on today.
And Larry, let's talk about the 500-mile race on Fox. You know, watching qualifying last night in the 43 car, Bobby Labonte, DW said, I don't know about that. And son of a gun, he's going to start 6th.
But I think Bobby answered the question. Is right now Bobby's going to be 8th quickest in the 77 car. He answered the question in his interview. He said, I missed my corner, and I knew my crew, they were going to be on me about not running the bottom. And he said, I just stayed on the throttle, and it stuck.
Bobby Labonte is 8th right now of 20 drivers. Let's go back to Krista.
Down here with David Stremme. We're actually talking about music, kind of our favorite music, but let's talk about race cars right now. How's your car, David, and how are you going to be for this qualifying session?
The Supercuts Dodge was pretty good. You know, I just got out of the Coors Light car, and for a lot of people at home, the Cup cars are a lot harder to drive than the Busch car. So when we were in practice, we never really did a mock run, and I told him, I said, look, I'll go down and qualify that Cup car, I'll get out of it, and we'll be okay for the Busch car. So I don't really know what I got. The only thing I do know is from last night, and it's continued on today, is the weather's real cold, and you pretty much know your second lap's going to be faster. So we'll just see what we got the first one and hit it hard the second one.
Okay, and important to note, David Stremme, also a fan of Bon Jovi. That's why we like him.
Krista, Larry Mack doesn't have a favorite music. He sings everything. He's like a jukebox.
You just never know what I might start humming or singing.
You'll go from Peter Frampton to
Kenny Chesney,
Frank Sinatra.
Crystal Gale.
Tony Stewart making sweet music on the racetrack, a 2-time winner in the Nextel Cup Series here.
Yeah, but Tony Stewart's got what I need after listening to Larry Mack sing. Goodies powder. Make my headache go away.
I got one in my pocket, but it's not the cool orange. I'm going to take it, though.
Tony was 16th quickest in practice yesterday. Pretty decent first lap, 29.76. That puts him 10th quickest. Tony has 68 career Busch Series starts. Hard to believe. Only 2 Busch Series wins, though. Both of them coming in the February Daytona race, back-to-back driving for Kevin Harvick.
And Larry, Dick Berggren had a great point yesterday. Denny Hamlin ran the full series in that number 20 car in the Busch Series last year. He will not. He will not this year. That's why Tony's in the 20 car here this week.
This car will run the full series, and we have a lot of cars doing that as he ends up 3rd quickest. We have a lot of these cars that are doing that where a Nextel Cup driver may run 18 to 25 races and other drivers filling in the blanks.
Well, as flat as I can run right there. That was almost flat on both ends.
All right, we may have to interview him and define what almost means, actually.
Dick Berggren, please tell us Kyle Busch didn't have anything left.
I'm going to ask him that. Did you run wide open all the way around, or was there anything left in that car?
There was still some left. I didn't quite get it all the way open, so I probably could have, but, you know, a certain spring pulled back on my right foot a little bit. I can't say it on TV, but it was a good lap for us. You know, the Garden Save SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Conservation Fund Chevrolet was pretty awesome. So glad I got that in there right, and, you know, hopefully we can just tear him up today.
Fastest in practice, fastest so far. But look down here at the entrance to the garage. He's got his good luck gnome as well on St. Patrick's Day, Krista.
I know, kind of like a little leprechaun. Dave Blaney's wearing a lot of green. Not a leprechaun, but very fast in the Busch practice. A couple Toyotas up there. You were one of them. How's your car?
Our car was really good yesterday in race trim, and we made one qualifying attempt there, and it wasn't even close to as fast as these guys are running, so I don't know what we can do, but our car will be good.
All right, he's going to hope the luck of the Irish is with him on this session.
Krista, 25 drivers doing double duty here this weekend in the Busch and Cup Series. J.J. Yaley in the 1 car is one of them.
JJ's running the full season, driving for James Finch, Phoenix Racing over there with Mark Reno in that group. First lap, 19th quickest at a 30.27 for JJ. The 2 Finch cars, J.J. Yaley in the 1, Mike Wallace in the 7, they've not figured out what they're looking for. They've really struggled this year for the most part. Pretty good pickup, 29.76. He goes to 11th quickest in this 1 car.
The NASCAR Busch Series teams limited to 1 practice yesterday. They normally have 2 and a rookie practice, but rain washed out one of those sessions in the morning, so we had 1 extended practice. So J.J. Yaley clocks in 11th. Kyle Busch is the fastest, followed by Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart. David Gilliland in the 25 car has put his Ford in the 11th position. Meanwhile, Ward Burton in the 27 is 18th. Kyle Busch is the fastest. Tony Stewart, third quickest. He's with Dick.
Yeah, and here's the paradox of that whole thing. When Tony Stewart got done with his qualifying run, his crew told him he was as fast as, if not faster than, Kyle Busch in the corner. So how come you're not on the pole?
It's a really good question. I'd like to know that too, but no, this Goody's Cool Orange Monte Carlo is really good right now. The good thing is it's handling really good, obviously. If we can run faster corner speeds than Kyle did, that shows what we got. We just got to figure out how to make it go a little faster in a straight line, it sounds like.
Going to be fun watching you in the race. Thanks.
Yes, it will, Dick Berggren. 47 car driven by John Wood.
Pretty decent first lap for John. 29.63 right now as he's on his second lap. He's 7th. He's going to shut her down. He'll be one and done. He did not like something he felt in 1 and 2 on lap 2, but good first lap.
2 years ago, John started 4th here in Atlanta. Now today on speed, one of America's ultimate races meets the ultimate two-screen experience. Speed onboard pass puts you in the driver's seat and continues to provide uninterrupted online coverage of the American Le Mans Series 12 Hours of Sebring. Log on to speedtv.com now.
And Larry, listen to that comment John Wood said. You caught it right, buddy. A little too tight off of turn 2, so he just shut it down.
He knew it was not going to be any better.
7th quick for John Wood. Let's go to Krista.
Todd Cleaver was our guest on the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series pre-race show last night. And we were just kind of talking, trying to decide, was it colder last night or colder now in the middle of the afternoon?
I don't know. It's pretty close, but I think it was a little bit colder last night. This wind out here today is just it bites right through you, though. It's pretty bad.
Pretty bad, but his car is very good. He said he was very happy with it yesterday, and he's looking for a good session here today.
Thank you, Krista. See the wind blowing the hood on Todd Cleaver's jacket. It is chilly here. No, it's not chilly. It's cold.
It's cold.
22 car being driven by David Stremme out of South Bend, Indiana. 11th in NASCAR Nextel Cup Series points.
See, that practice session he was talking about earlier helps him out. Any car looks good off of turn 3 and 4, out of 3 and 4.
He was 21st in practice, had a great qualifying run last week at Las Vegas in the Busch Series race. Actually, in both races, sat on the outside of the front row for both the Cup race and the Busch race. First lap, 29.77.
If he picks up a couple of tenths, he could easily jump up in the top 5.
And you know, there has a lot happened since these race cars were on the track last. They practiced the middle of the day yesterday. We had Cup qualifying. We had the truck race. These Cup guys, they've already, besides their qualifying last night, they did the Cup practice. So a lot has changed since these cars were last on the racetrack.
He didn't quite make it, Larry. Didn't make the top 5. He wound up 6th.
29.58.
Good pickup, though.
Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards the quickest, followed by Tony Stewart and Sam Hornish Jr. More Busch Series qualifying coming up. 27 drivers have qualified here in Busch Pole qualifying. Bobby Hamilton Jr., 22nd.
Yeah, he really struggled in practice yesterday. It was one of the slower cars and picked it up a little bit. They got their work cut out for him.
Dave Blaney in the 10 car. He has a pole position here in the Busch Series, coming back in 1999. He finished 2nd that afternoon.
It's going to be a pretty good first lap. He was 6th quickest in practice yesterday. First lap 29.69, but he'd have to be looking for about 3/4 of a second if he wants to get up there in Kyle Busch territory.
Larry, we hadn't said a whole lot about it, but you know, along with the racetrack lace here, with the sun beating down on it, it could be going through some changes also. These guys with a later draw may not get the benefit that, you know, Kyle Busch did, as well as Carl Edwards.
So, Jeff, even as cold as it is, the sun still would have an impact on the racetrack.
Well, it could start, you know, getting warmer again. You know, it could start, you know, changing the way the track feels, and that could have some bearing on how some of these guys qualify.
I'm like you. I don't know if I want to go early, but I don't know if I want to go late either.
But you got to go. We'll be right back. Johnny Sauter in the number 28, disappointing qualifying effort for he and that race team. 27 out of 29 drivers. Kyle Busch still the fastest. A good idea of just how high the winds are blowing here out of the northwest. cold. We started qualifying. It was 40 degrees.
Hey, Mr. Weatherman, would you call that gale force winds possibly?
I guess you could call it that.
Why not? Lake effect warning, perhaps.
Look, don't confuse him.
I don't know about that one.
Don't confuse him, okay?
I don't know if it's a warning because it's here. It's happening.
And happening in qualifying right now is Marcus Ambrose, the number 59 Wood Brothers JTG Motorsports Ford.
You know, I want to go back to a story that Chris Devoto did yesterday during our Busch Series practice show that we did on speed. You know, certainly a lot of buzz around Juan Pablo Montoya, a lot because of coming from Formula One. But this gentleman from Australia, I mean, I think he's definitely been overlooked in his season. You just look back, he finished 8th at Mexico. He finished 10th in Vegas. Having a pretty solid season in this 59 car. Right now, after lap 2, he'll end up 21st quickest. But I think he's going to make some noise in this Busch Series before too awful long.
Big pickup on that second lap.
Drove the V8 Supercar Series in Australia. Ambrose 21st in his Kingsford car. Krista?
Caught up with Jeff Burton, who actually just did something I wish no one had to do, and that's take off the coat down here. It is blustery cold. Jeff, how's your car?
I think race run was pretty good. Our Q run yesterday was pretty ugly, but we'll see what we got today.
Bigger question, who are you rooting for now in the NCAA tournament, now that Duke's out?
Ooh!
Nobody.
Maryland, he's pulling for the Terps.
I knew that was going to be his answer. There's no way he's rooting for Maryland, Steve. Nice try.
Duke got knocked off by Virginia Commonwealth, and there's no bigger Duke fan in that garage than Jeff Burton.
Well, you talking about breaking a man's concentration.
Right before he's going to qualify, she throws the Duke dagger
Hey,
at
I get ready to say, you think it's cold outside. It's now gotten a lot colder.
Steve Wallace attempting to qualify for his 23rd NASCAR Busch Series race.
Not going to be a great first lap, and he was 31st quickest in practice yesterday in his 66 car. First lap 29.92.
After 4 races, Steve is 14th in the Busch Series standings.
Car just evidently might be a little bit tight, just shoving the nose, and has it bound up a little bit off turn 2, because you can see the tracker kept going slower all the way down that back straightaway as he came off turn 2. Looks like he got off turn 4 a little better than turn 2. Pop up in the top 15 possibly. 29.77 up, 18th quickest. Just a slight pickup on lap 2.
18th for Steve Wallace. Jeff, Larry, what's your premium item or items as a crew chief coming here to Atlanta? What are you concerned about most in that race car?
Well, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard racetrack when it comes to suspension components. I want to make sure that the car kind of like, is going to stay together, keep it up off the racetrack at all costs. And I really want it to roll through the center of the corner. I want to work everything I can, Steve, to make sure that we can keep that momentum through the center of the turn. You'll see today the guys that can do that. I mean, the way you can gain so much momentum through these turns, it's amazing down the straightaways how much you'll close on another guy.
And I tell you, it is definitely a horsepower racetrack. You think about, we've talked over and over about these Busch cars. They actually have the same engine package that the Cup cars, but a smaller carburetor, about 90 to 100 less horsepower. So when you're trying to run around this place all but wide open, horsepower becomes a premium almost like it does at Daytona or Talladega. But the key is, keep that driver where he can stay on the throttle. I used to ask Lou LaRosa, who I worked with, I'd say, Lou, how much horsepower do we have? And, of course, back then, if you had 700, you were doing good. He said 700 when he holds it wide open.
That's the key. Got to get all of them. Reed Sorensen from nearby Peachtree City, Georgia, in the 41 car.
Not quite the first lap I think he was looking for. 30-21. Let's see what he can do on the second lap. Looks like the front valence is dragging pretty hard, knocking the front paint off, even the paint off the left front.
Yeah, you definitely want to get it down, but I think it has actually all but folded that left front corner under, and that's going to hurt the downforce on the car. And, of course, we're not sure how, if they wanted to repair that, how NASCAR would take a look at that. 29.95, so he's going to be well back in the pack as well. 23rd quickest for the 41 car.
23rd out of 32. We expect 44 drivers to clock in here today in Busch Pole qualifying. Well, boys, Wednesday night on speed, it's time to go all out. Pink's all out. No negotiations, no sandbagging. Run what you brung. Go or go home excitement. Pinks All Out, presented by Napa, Wednesday night, 9 Eastern, only on Speed. Lose the race?
Lose the ride.
Beautiful,
I
nicely
thought you were going to
done.
leave us out.
No,
Man,
never,
you
never,
had me
never.
nervous for a minute there.
Never. Todd Cleaver in the 16 car. Trying to make his third start of 2007. Finished 14th at Daytona and 11th at Mexico City.
Pretty good in practice yesterday, 8th quickest.
I want to regress back to the Pinks promo. I would love
Yes.
to go and watch that live sometimes. I think that would be such an experience to be able to be a part of that.
I want you to get some kind of a hot rod and go race on Pinks All Out.
Larry, you build it, I'll drive it.
Okay, we can do that. Now, one thing I noticed about Todd Cleaver through 3 and 4, he was completely out of the throttle for a little bit, and then when he went to pick it up, he just couldn't go all the way back to it. He had to play with it.
Watch the tracker. He was on a pole run there for a second. Now he's losing a lot off that corner. Look at that back straightaway. He lost a ton, Larry.
His teammate Carl Edwards and his other teammate Matt Kenseth, both of those guys up in the top 5 right now. Todd's first lap 29.94. Picks it up about almost 3/10, so he's up in the top 10, 10th quickest right now.
10th out of 33. We're going to let Jeff Hammond go. He's going to, speaking of ride, he's going to drive and ride with DW for the NASCAR on Fox pre-race show tomorrow.
Oh, my gosh, here we go again.
Pull those belts tight.
One more time.
The Demon, 24th fastest here in Busch Pole qualifying. Everybody's trying to chase down Kyle Busch.
Meet the king, it says. I would say that little airplane has its hands full up there today with this win.
I would say so. Eric Almirola in the 18 car. Out of Tampa, Florida, you see just 23 years old. He's come through the driver development ranks for Joe Gibbs Racing and the diversity program that was established by the late Reggie White, NFL Hall of Famer, along with Joe Gibbs.
He's got his hands full on this qualifying lap. First lap 30.41, and it's working on even being a little slower here on lap 2. Made one start in the Busch Series this year, finished 19th back at Daytona, and made his first career Nextel Cup start last week at Las Vegas. 30-30, he picks up a 10th, but he'll stay 31st. He did not pick up any positions.
Almirola has 2 starts in the Truck Series, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series here in Atlanta with a best finish of 18th.
We got it to quit wanting to go right, but it just won't turn at all. It just pushes.
So his Chevrolet doesn't want to turn. So you watch NASCAR race day. You've seen Jimmy and Kenny and their antics. Now you think you can do better? Well, send us your best impersonations of Jimmy and Kenny, and you might see yourself on race day. It's all part of My Race Day. Log on to speedtv.com for more information. Kyle Busch still the fastest here in Busch Pole qualifying, and qualifying is winding down. Kyle Krisaloff in the 14 car. His Clabber Girl Ford has qualified 26th. And as Busch Pole qualifying continues, I present Larry Mack in his St. Patrick's Day finest.
Well, my little friend Katarina from a sweet next door, she brought me over a hat. Now, I know it's maybe not a St. Patrick's Day hat, but it's a Mardi Gras hat, but it's all I could find. They said, Larry, you have to celebrate St. Patrick's Day somehow, so I'm using the hat that Katarina has loaned me. She didn't give it to me, she loaned it to me.
It is festive, I must say.
Well, they say St. Patrick's Day is about partying. This definitely looks like a party hat, right?
Yeehaw, let's go.
So let's party.
All
What do you
right.
think? Let's go.
Let's go to Krista, who's with Casey Kane.
That's right. Only one car was faster than Casey in practice. It's the guy who's on the pole right now, Kyle Busch. Can you knock him off, Casey?
That's a pretty fast lap. We'll see. I don't know what our car's going to do here, but I think it's still cold out and windy, so I think the weather's really similar. We'll just see how fast we can go. I really have no idea.
All right, he's going to jump in the car, and we'll find out.
Krista, the 71 of Ron Young. He's in a Chevrolet.
Now, Jay Sauter will be watching this run very closely because Ron is one of the go-home cars. Ron ran a lot of the All-Pro Series several years ago back in the late 90s. This is a brand new car for Ron, and he plans on running about 12 to 15 races in 2007. He does all the work himself with no help. He has a couple of 3 part-time guys that volunteer and help him on the night. And it looks like to me Ron Young will race in this 300-miler because he qualifies in front of Jay Sauter.
Pretty sure, Larry Mack, that Ron Young is also a Georgia native. Hey, Monday, take a look back at the 1968 Old Dominion 500 from Martinsville Speedway. Host Dale Earnhardt Jr. will take you back in the day this Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Speed.
Take it away, bud. That's scary.
Yes, it is.
We wasn't even looking at each other when we said that.
Kyle Busch is the fastest in his Chevrolet, over 191 miles an hour. Stephen Light, just 20 years old, out of Asheville, North Carolina. Larry, you talked about high number of drivers trying to make their first Busch Series race here. He's one of them.
Yep, running the full circuit for Robert Yates Racing in this 90 car. 17th quickest yesterday. Pretty decent first lap, 29.70 for Stephen. And we talked about this yesterday in the Busch Series practice show. I think last year this young man was just confused. You know, they were putting all different drivers in this 90 car. At one time, it was talked about he may actually be the heir to the 38 car when Elliott Sadler was leaving there. But I think once they finally said, Stephen, this 90 car, it's your ride full time, you could see the confidence level just go straight up.
And we talk about that all the time, Larry Mack. That's an underestimated facet and element of this sport is confidence. Yeah, they had Matt McCall in that car, Mark Goossens from Belgium, who's a road racer. But you're right. They said, here it is. It's yours to drive.
And he did a pretty good job there, 10th quickest.
Speed's presentation of NASCAR Busch Series qualifying from the Atlanta Motor Speedway is brought to you by Just for Men. Stay in the game with Just for Men hair color. Hey, we could dog Hammond pretty good here.
Well, I was going to ask you, think there's any hope for me here. I better hurry, though.
I was going to play the Hammond card on that one as Jeff Burton motors around his mile-and-a-half track in his Holiday Inn Chevrolet.
Won the race here a year ago. You know, for the most part, Atlanta Motor Speedway has not been good to Richard Childress Racing in the Busch Series. Really, the highlight of all the Busch races they've run here was that win 1 year ago with this 29 team and Jeff Burton.
Jeff was pretty emotional about that win in Victory Lane a year ago. And
actually, to back up on that, he actually won the race in the 21 car. He didn't start running his 29 car until late summer of last year.
Got his 23rd NASCAR Busch Series victory at Las Vegas last week, 5th on the all-time win list.
21st quickest on lap 1 at a 29.82. Losing a little bit of ground down the back straightaway. And what you could see there, he eased it into the corner, and when he picked the throttle up, he was able to stay in it, and that made a huge difference. The net gain is much better than just driving it in, and he's going to go up to 7th quickest, and a lot of it was right there from the middle off of turn 3 and 4.
So Jeff Burton, 7th fastest out of 39 drivers.
Yeah, real stable, just mainly too tight. Very stable.
Drivers remaining are Mike Wallace, Tony Raines, Jamie McMurray, Casey Kane. The final driver to qualify is Juan Pablo Montoya.
Let's go back and talk about Reed Sorensen, who right now is 27th quickest. If you notice here, this was at the beginning of the run, and you can see the valence is exactly how it should be. It's right against asphalt. But I think what he may have done is they maybe got the car just a little bit too low. You've got all this tape on the nose right there, which puts more downforce, and especially over here on the left corner, you can see basically where it has drug. Now, I'm not sure it turned under, but not exactly what they intended with that valence, which certainly, if it has turned under, could hurt the downforce on that 41 car.
Yeah, that's a great side-by-side comparison with great camera work. Mike Wallace is in the number 7 car. He is 9th in Busch Series points after finishing 13th in Las Vegas. He has 264 NASCAR Busch Series starts and still looking for his first pole. That's a bit of a surprise.
That is a surprise. First lap, not exactly what he's looking for. 31.07. His teammate, J.J. Yaley, in the 1 car, 18th quickest right now at a 29.76. It would be a stretch for Mike to get anywhere near what his teammate ran.
Again, time running out. Kyle Busch on the pole position. Mike Wallace has 4 career wins in the Busch Series.
30.58. He won't be happy with that at all. 36 quickest for this 7 car.
And Larry, you mentioned, in fact, yesterday you pointed out the Finch car still looking for the right combination.
Yeah, and you know, you question what it is. Is it maybe a little bit under the hood? Is it a little bit aero? Is it a little bit chassis? Because the problem is if you're a little bit in all of those, that puts you 36 quickest. It don't have to be a lot. Now, I think we'll see when this actually happened on Reed Sorensen in the 41 car. Remember, we talked about how bumpy this place is, and right there, as the car went down into one of those dips, that's when it did the damage on that 41 car. Once again, guys, great camera work to support what we're seeing here. And I tell you, big attaboy to our camera guys, because I know how cold it was down low. I can't imagine what it's like up on top of these roofs with those cameras.
Or up on those platforms and the cranes. Great job by our all-star crew from top to bottom.
The tape guys and all.
Graphics, producers, all of them, all-stars. Tony Raines in the 33 car. Larry, interesting, put on your crew chief hat for a minute. Dan Stillman is the crew chief. He's had 4 different drivers and 4 races in that race car.
And you know, we can see where it would be a little tough maybe just working with 2 drivers. But I think you can get kind of a feel for what's what. But when you start talking about working with 4 drivers, just think about the guys at the shop. Probably, truth be known, 4 different seats in these race cars.
Yeah, they're all custom fit to the drivers. Ron Fellows drove the car at Mexico City. Tony Raines in it here.
Tony was 28th quickest in practice yesterday. His first lap, 30.57. It's about what he ran in practice, and he'll pick it up about 4/10 to 30.17.
Larry, Tony Stewart drove it at Vegas. Kevin Harvick at California has done pretty well. It finished 6th with Harvick aboard at California, 3rd with Tony Stewart at Vegas.
So we're down to 3 cars left to go. One of them right here, Jamie McMurray. We have, of the 3 cars, 2 are go or go home. So Jay Salter still anxiously awaiting to see how Jamie McMurray and Juan Pablo Montoya run to see if he will race this afternoon.
Larry, got a little trivia question for you. As you look at Jamie's stats, he got a win here in 2002. 4 drivers, 4 Busch Series drivers got their first wins here. Can you name them?
Well, we know Carl Edwards is one of them. Jamie McMurray is another one. Boy, I don't know. You've lost me from there.
How about Jeff Gordon?
Okay.
And the 4th one is your buddy Mike Skinner.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I do remember that. Driving the yellow transportation car. Funny story is we watched Jamie start his first lap here on Jeff Gordon. That was, I think he sat on the pole and won the race in the spring of 1992. There was a gentleman in a suite watching this race by the name of Rick Hendrick. He said, you know what? I like what I see. I think I want to try to put a cup program around this young man.
And Jeff Gordon made his cup debut that November.
And Richard Petty made his last start that day. And Jeff Gordon has not missed a Nextel Cup race since that day. And you know what? It's worked out pretty good, I'd say.
Yes, sir.
I love what Darrell told Rick. Rick called, because Darrell drove for Rick.
That.
And
what do you think of my boy Jeff Gordon?
Yeah, Rick called Darrell, said, what do you think? And Darrell says, you know, I just don't think he's going to make it.
And in '93, Jeff Gordon did tear up a bunch of race cars. But as you said, things have worked out nicely. 4 championships later.
Yes, it did. Now, Jamie McMurray in the 26 car, 23rd quickest right now. So we know he will race this afternoon. So now we have Casey Kane left in the 9 car and Juan Pablo Montoya, the winner from Mexico.
I slid up a little bit.
Those are strong, but not nearly as strong as your lid, Larry Mack.
You know, I know mine didn't have it had a little green on it.
And a little everything.
A little of everything. And Mardi Gras, festive.
Casey Kane told Krista he had no idea what he had in terms of his race car today. We're about to find out. 5 starts here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, 4 top 10s. He's done everything but go to victory lane.
Steve, Mike, and Darrell and I sat down with Casey Kane this morning for about 30 or 45 minutes, just trying to learn more about Casey Kane. We know he drives the 9 car. We know he runs fast at 1.5 mile racetracks, just trying to learn more about him. And I asked him, I said, you know, Casey, as you were growing up, did you have a favorite NASCAR driver? And he said, yes, Jeff Gordon. I used to always watch him on Thursday Night Thunder. He said all the other kids would be playing in the swimming pool. He was only about 11 or 12 years old, but when Thursday Night Thunder would come on, I'd get out of the swimming pool and I'd go watch him, and he said I just followed him right in the Nextel Cup. And how he first met Jeff Gordon is when he first moved to Charlotte, Casey. He went to Sushi on the Lake. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson had been testing here at Atlanta, and they came in. They had a big table sitting there. Casey was sitting with Jason Leffler. He said Jeff Gordon just sat right beside him, said he was feeding me sushi off his plate, saying, here, try this, try this. He said, I couldn't wait to get off the phone, go call my dad and say, guess who I ate with tonight?
That's a great story. Great story.
Good run for Casey Kane. First lap, 29.85. Second quickest, 29.24.
So he bumps Carl Edwards off the outside of row one. He will be next to Kyle Busch. Said he didn't know what he had, but pretty nice race car.
Pretty nice. And right now, with one car to go, we have a Chevrolet on the pole, a Dodge outside pole, and a Ford, Carl Edwards, back in third. And then we have a Chevrolet Dodge Ford the next three, so parity exists.
Juan Pablo Montoya from Bogota, Colombia. See, he won the race at Mexico City. That was his first Busch Series win. It came in his 7th start. He said, I kind of figured I was going to win a road course race. Remember on trackside, he said, let's be honest.
But he really, really, really wants to win on an oval. And sitting second in the Busch Series, the Rebestos Rookie of the Year battle, 2, Marcus Ambrose took the lead after Las Vegas. Marcus did.
A lot of motorsports accomplishments for that driver.
And I like, he gives good feedback on the radio, and you know what? It's concise and it's calm. He doesn't give this long description of what's going on.
7 Formula One wins between 2001 and 2006. Won the Indianapolis 500 in his first and only start in 2000.
Pretty good first lap from Juan, 29.71, 17th quickest, so that will bump Jay Sauter to be the lone car that will not make this race this afternoon. Made his first laps here yesterday when the track opened for practice. In fact, his first laps, David Stremme actually took him around in one of the safety trucks just to show him the racetrack.
And I like what you said yesterday. He went down to Darlington and said, that's the darndest place I've ever seen, he told Donnie Wingo.
That was his only comment about the place. And he picks it up. He'll be 10th quickest in this Dodge, 29.61. Good lap.
Good job by Juan Pablo Montoya and Brad Parrott, that race team. Forgot to mention Juan Pablo also was one of the winning team members, the 2007 Rolex 24 race at Daytona.
Pretty interesting, a couple of our guys in the top 10. Juan Pablo Montoya ends up 10th. Sam Hornish Jr. in that 12 car ends up 5th in qualifying. But they were all chasing one Kyle Busch in that 5 car.
That is a fact. The 9th career Busch Series pole for Kyle Busch. Casey Kane will make his first start from the front row. So Busch Series qualifying is over here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll be back. Wrap things up after this here on Speed.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.
Kyle Busch is the pole sitter for this afternoon's NASCAR Busch Series race. He is standing by with Dick Berggren.
And he has been fast since unloading that hot rod here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. How about this afternoon for the race?
Well, I hope it's going to be just as good. You know, the car has been really good all weekend long since we unloaded it, like you said. So hopefully the Garden Safe, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, Conservation Fund Chevrolet will be good today. And hopefully we won't do what we did here last year. You know, last year we had a right rear tire problem. We were leading the race and shredded that right rear tire and just destroyed the race cars. So hopefully here today we can keep all 4 tires on it and just kind of stay up front and wander around most of the day and then be there at the end to try to challenge for the win.
Wander around at around 190 miles an hour. Now, we've talked to a lot of people who say they can run pretty close to wide open, doing it one car at a time. When you're in a pack, how close to wide open can you be?
You can't. No, once we take the tape off the nose and once you get in race trim, you won't be able to hold it wide open. The thing will drag really bad. And you know, you let the air pressures down and it'll drag again that way. So it's going to be depending on how good everybody's car is. I mean, they're towards the end of the race on fresh tires. If you're out front, you can probably hold it down, not all the way, but you'll definitely have to roll out of it some, but you'll be able to keep it at least half throttle for about 300 feet or so, and then you're just back to wide open again. So it'll be exciting, I'm sure, towards the end.
The SeaWorld conservation deal you're on this weekend, you had a bunch of different animals here. Which is your favorite?
My favorite's probably going to be the penguin. You know, I did a story about it years ago when I was in elementary school, and it was kind of fun doing that. And then, you know, the American bald eagle, of course, it's for the United States of America, so I enjoy that bird a lot. And, you know, it was cool to have all them folks here, so hopefully we complete 195 laps today, because we're going to donate $100 for every lap that we complete today, as well as if we win the race, we're going to double that. So I'll put it out there, too, that I'll donate $40,000 if I can win today also.
Okay, and this bald pit road reporter is going to throw it up to Steve Burns.
All right. All right, thank you very much, Dick. Larry Mack, let's take a look at the starting grid. Strong first two rows there, big names.
That is some horsepower right there, and I mentioned Sam Hornish Jr. and defending race champion Jeff Burton, along with David Stremme back there on row 4.
David Stremme's on a little bit of a roll as we look further back through the grid.
I like row 6 and 7. Some of our Busch Series regulars not running the Cup. We've got John Wood, Stephen Light, those guys like that.
Shane Huffman and Reed Sorensen in row 15. Larry talked about the damage to the front of that 41 car.
Greg Biffle, you always watch him when a green flag waves, no matter where he starts.
43 drivers make up the field. Johnny Sauter, Eric McClure, and Ron Young rounded out. Jay Sauter, the only driver not to qualify. Oh, a strong contender for Larry Mack.
Second place to Larry Mack right there.
He's the first loser to Larry Mack.
That's it.
In the hat department. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Thanks for being with us.